we have a record of it because Holly Licky Cressman is not on right now, who's my fabulous scribe. So I'm going to rely on technology instead. But I want to welcome you all. February 10th, we've been doing this since November now. So I'm really excited to see we've got 16 people on, and I hope more will be coming in. And I will keep checking that waiting room if they do. Today we have a special guest, Jason T. Hall, and he is officially on here. He is the Director of Emergency Food Assistance Programs, Commodities Supplemental Food Program, Hunters for the Hungry from the state of Maine. And Amy has asked him to we used her connections to get him on this call to speak to us about what's going on around the state and some advice, some updates. So Jason, are you there?
I sure am. How are you?
Awesome. I'm going to ask everybody else to mute themselves while Jason speaks, and then the audio should be much clearer. And then afterwards, Jason has said he'll have time to take any questions. When you do want to ask a question, there should be a raise your hand thing, or you can physically raise your hand and I will try to see. So thank you. I'm going to mute myself. Jason, it's all you.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for letting me know that I can blame Amy Mailman for this today. She's also a neighbor of mine. We live in the same town, so I know where to find her. But again, thank you for the opportunity to visit and speak today. You nailed it. I'm the director for the Emergency Food Assistance Program, CSFP, the Commodities Program, as well as Hunters for the Hungry. And I can break down, I guess I'll start off by breaking down what that means. And I'll start with the small program. Hunters for the Hungry was actually a program started through Inland Fisheries and Wildlife in 1996. And over the years, it kind of migrated and landed in the lap of the Department of Agriculture. Because we were doing food assistance programs and IFW wasn't geared to do those programs. So the program basically allows hunters to donate a portion or the entirety of their harvest of wild game to one of our 28 processors throughout the state. And we pay them basically to process the meat, and we get it to food pantries and congregate meal sites across the state. A lot of people think that these people donate their time and energy to process the animals, and we've made a conscious decision when the program started that the processors would be paid. As you all know, hunger is a byproduct of poverty. So if we're not paying these people, chances are they might end up at a food pantry line. So we wanted to make sure that they were getting paid for their services. On an average year, we get anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 pounds of wild game donated, and we get it out to the pantries. The last 2 or 3 years, we're averaging about 15,000. So the program has grown. We actually have a Facebook site, and that kind of sparked a lot of interest and boosted some donations over the last few years. So I think I don't think it's a program that's going anywhere. It's very popular, and there's a lot of avid hunters in Maine that participate. The next program is, or I should say, I'm ranking these by size. So CSFP would be the next program, and that's the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. This is a federal program, and basically it's a pre-packed unit of food, a box that USDA determines what low-income elderly people should be eating as a supplemental diet. So we have a very defined list of items we put in the box. Over the years, I think 10 years ago, we were serving 2,000 seniors every month in this program. And we were so excited when we got the program to 3,200. And then we did that for a year, and overnight, our program tripled to 9,300. We work with Good Shepherd Food Bank. Good Shepherd Food Bank is contracted to store the food, to produce the boxes, and they also deliver it statewide. And it varies each year. We've gone up to 9,000, down to 8,000. It just depends on how we operate and if we can hit our mark each month. But It's a great program. Um, the packages contain a variety of pastas, juice, veggies, fruits, UHT milk. There's plant proteins now. There's meat proteins. And of course, the famous USDA block of cheese is still around. A lot of people thought it disappeared, but it's alive and well in the CSFP program. And then my third program, this is the largest of my programs. It's called TFAP. And TFAP used to stand for Temporary Emergency Food Assistance Program. And then people realized that hunger isn't always temporary. So they changed the temporary to the. So it's now the Emergency Food Assistance Program. And again, it's a federal program. Maine gets a grant to obtain USDA foods, and we share those USDA foods with participating food assistance programs throughout the state. We have roughly 257 nonprofits that participate in TFAP. And I just wanted to, I guess I wanted to introduce you to some of the things that normally go on and then what happens in a pandemic year. So our funding is based on population, the unemployment rate, and the poverty rate, but they determine our funding from 3 years ago. So if the economy was doing great 3 years ago, we get less money now. So let me, I mean, on an average, Maine gets about $1 million a year, and we go onto a USDA site and we have to purchase product for the entire year to serve the entire state. There's lots of different products we receive. We get a lot of the staples, but every now and then they throw items at us that we get inundated with, like split peas or lentils. I mean, a truckload of split peas would be nice every now and then, but to get 8 to 12 in 1 year saturates the entire state with pea soup and other recipes. Sometimes it's, sometimes it becomes a burden. You can just eat so many split peas over the course of a year. So the funding we get for that program, which is roughly $1 million, it's called entitlement funds. We also have another fund in that program called bonus. So bonus is just that. It's extra food, it's bonus food, it's free food. And that's when a commodity in the US is tanking. The US government will inject funds to stabilize the pricing. So basically let's say it's tomatoes. We had a bumper crop of tomatoes, so they're not profitable. There's so many tomatoes in the network that they can't even sell them in the supermarkets. So the US government injects some money and basically turns them all into canned diced tomatoes, and they give the TFAP program. Every state in the US gets a certain amount of truckloads of diced tomatoes. So that's what bonus is. It's just it's the US government purchasing like excess food to stabilize pricing. So on an average year in the TFAP program, we would see maybe 60 to 75 truckloads of food, which is roughly 112,000 cases. It's and our average funding is $1 million a year, which we turn into about 1.5 million pounds of food. Maine is kind of famous in USDA because our state, working with Good Shepherd Food Bank and having the state have its own warehouse in Augusta and another warehouse in Gardner. Any state that can't use their bonus items or can't use any extra trucks, Maine gobbles it up. We're not ones to say no. We'll figure out a way to get the food out to the pantries and in the kitchens. So we're kind of, if I go to conferences across the US, everyone kind of chuckles because Maine is the scavenger. We will take all of New Hampshire's extras and all of Vermont's extras. And so that's how we tend to get extra food in Maine as well. And it doesn't cost us anything extra. So, when I want to, like I said, all that information I just gave you is the normal year, but I did want to touch on 2020 because that definitely was not normal. And I think everyone can agree it was a little crazy year. The economy in 2017 was getting better. So in 2020, my funding wasn't $1 million. It was $800,000. So when 2020 started, I was getting a little nervous that, it's good that people are going back to work. It's good that there's stability. But my goal is still to pump out as much food as possible to help those in need. So when I saw that I was getting $800,000, I started to panic. But at that time, the US government was having trade negotiation challenges with other countries. So what the US government did was, instead of trading with these other countries, we basically paid the farmers to grow that product, and it stayed in the US. So all that extra food that was supposed to go to Europe and all these other countries went into the TFAP program. So at the beginning of 2020, we got buried in what they call trade mitigation foods. And it's the best problem to have in this business. Having too much food when you're trying to feed people is the best problem ever. So 2020 started off great for me. I didn't know how I was going to move in my warehouse. I couldn't even turn a forklift around. We had so many pallets of food. Now, granted, like I said, some of those foods were split peas and lentils, and I had dry garbanzo beans. That's not a staple in many households. So, and to teach people how to use dry garbanzo beans was kind of a unique challenge. So we started off, January of 2020, we started off great. And then I think it was roughly the end of February, March, that's when it started to go, the pandemic hit and everything kind of went into a tailspin. We were sitting pretty. We had plenty of food, and we were continuing the program, and we were hitting those 257 pantries across the state. We were pretty confident that we weren't going to have a lot of challenges. But then it gets better. Not long after that, the CARES Act was passed, and the state of Maine basically got $1 million for the TFAP program. So that's our normal annual budget, but we could only receive pallets, truckloads of food between July and December. So we knew we were okay with our regular food. We knew we had a high inventory with the trade mitigation food, and we knew in July we were going to get buried in more food. And then a week later, we found out not only were we getting the CARES Act funds, but we were getting the FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Response Act funds, which was another $1 million for food between July and December. So now I got a little sweat on my eyebrow, because I know the warehouse in Augusta is 3,000 square feet. And if you've ever been to Good Shepherd Food Bank, they're like 40,000 square feet. So Good Shepherd Food Bank was already full with a lot of TFAP food, and my warehouse in Augusta was full. So we started to get nervous that it's great we're getting all this food, and we have no way to store it all. And we can't move it fast enough, because at the same time that we were getting the funding and the food, we had to change our operations at pantries and kitchens across the state. We had the front line, these people working the pantries had not only the mask, but you had to put up plastic. You had to, no touch models, stay your distance. We had drive-through models happening, and it all hit at once. So everything we've been doing for years all of a sudden got turned upside down, and we had to find new ways to serve the increasing need. So it was at that time, we knew we were in trouble, because we just weren't geared. I should probably add that in Augusta here, there's only 2 of us. So that makes it a little difficult when you're doing 4 times the work, but you still only have 2 staff. So that's when we started to think about how we were going to handle this load coming in, and we got authorized to hire a 3rd person. We rented another warehouse in Gardner, and we just kind of diverted all these trucks to Gardner, because, like I said, Good Shepherd was full, Augusta was full, and we needed that Gardner warehouse. So, as I mentioned, a normal year is 60 to 75 trucks. In 2020, we got 267 trucks. We were expecting 800,000. We got a little over 3 million in total. We normally handle 112,000 cases, but in 2020, we handled 377,000 cases. And our normal, that normal $1 million that we can turn into 1.5 million pounds, we actually did 8.4 million pounds. So we, that's with 2 people. And then our third staff was only on board for 3 months at that point. So I'm not sure how we did that. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, we had to alter how we worked, and we actually recruited forest rangers to load trucks for us and do some deliveries to some tribal lands. There were some people that work in weights and measures for the state of Maine. They're the ones that check your gas pumps and the scales at the stores, and they couldn't go out in public, so they were sent home. Well, some of these employees were so stir crazy that they asked if they could come work in the warehouse, and I gladly accepted them on busy weeks. So we ended up finding some people to fill some roles when things got crazy. So I know, I think it was by the end of October, maybe beginning of November, we got, we had our new warehouse, we had our staff in place, and you're never going to believe what I did. I took a vacation. I think it was the first time in 3 years I'd be able to take time off. So I shut off my phone and disappeared to Rockland for a 4-day weekend. And then Thanksgiving came and I did it again, and Christmas came and I did it again. So even though the year started off a little crazy, I was able to hit a reset button in my, towards the end of the year. So now we're in 2021. We still have an enormous amount of inventory. I just got word we are getting some CARES funding for 2021. I haven't looked at the chart yet to see how much money it is. We got our normal $1 million to purchase food for the year. We're looking really good inventory wise. We're in close contact with our agencies throughout the state. There's a few hot spots in Maine currently that still are seeing a pretty significant increase in need. So the way we're geared is we listen to what our food pantries want, and we try to work with them. So if they want a distribution 4 times a year, we'll do it four times. If they want it 5, we do it 5. Working with Good Shepherd, they do some direct deliveries. We still have some dockside distributions. It's kind of we have the whole ball of wax on how we get the food out, but we also recognize that those hot spots, these food pantries that were used to serving 120 individuals are now serving 350 with actually less volunteers because of the pandemic. And not a lot of capacity. So we've kind of vamped up in Augusta, and we do more frequent deliveries to help them in a bind. They think they have enough food for a month, and their first distribution, they get wiped out. So we load a truck and deliver right to them. We do it continuously. We work with Good Shepherd, and Good Shepherd holds all of our frozen and our produce as well as some dry. So we found ways to do online ordering for frozen foods for the TFAP participants. The produce has been extreme. It's tough to move fresh produce, but Good Shepherd always finds a way to get truckloads and truckloads of apples and grapes and lots of potatoes this year. So they've been doing a fantastic job to make sure the fresh doesn't go to waste. And I guess, we're sitting in a healthy place right now to start the year off, which takes a little stress off Good Shepherd and myself. But I guess the best observation I wanted to talk about in 2020 was the flexibility and tenacity of the pantries and the kitchens. And I don't know how many on this call actually work at a pantry or any food assistance programs, but it's just been amazing to watch. The distribution models have changed. Like I said, they've lost volunteers. They're dealing with a scared and angry clientele. I found out. mentally, some people aren't doing well with the pandemic, and when they have to go get food assistance, it's embarrassing, it's demeaning, and I can understand their frustration. But the frontline people doing food assistance have been fantastic, and now they're dealing with the cold weather, they're dealing with snowstorms. It's incredible to see the dedication. So if anyone on this call does food assistance, I just want to thank you and let you know it's not unnoticed. There's a lot of people watching all the good work that you're doing. But that's in a nutshell kind of what's been going on. And I welcome any questions you have, any gripes you have, any concerns. Fire away if you have some questions.
I just launched a poll to answer your question, how many people are in a pantry or not. So they're starting to do that. We have people who are on this call from all kinds of things. It was initially started for pantries and community meals. And we've had a wonderful response from other people who would like to partner with pantries or assist them. So it's a big coalition of people on this call. So it's kind of interesting. We've got 4 pantries and we have other things. Does anybody have a question for Jason? Unmute yourself and go for it.
Jason, do you have to sign up for the Hunters the Hunters Pro? What's the name of it? I forgot
It's
it.
Hunters for the Hungry. And
I knew that. A senior moment, it wouldn't come out.
yeah, so I'll tell you the challenge we have with Hunters for the Hungry. People equate it to like the roadkill program. And I know that sounds nasty, but a lot of people, I get voicemails from people calling at 2 a.m. that said they hit a deer and they want me to come get it. And I just don't do that. I can't do that. The roadkill program's kind of through your local law enforcement or game wardens or.
Well, I signed up for the Hunters for Hungry program, but we got something a couple years ago, but we haven't got anything since. So I don't know if I need to reconnect. So
what we do is we get, if someone harvests a deer or a moose, it might be 10 to 20 boxes of processed meat. So we don't do one-on-one. We don't deliver right to a household because like I said, there's 2 of us.
Right.
It wouldn't work. So if someone harvests a moose in Aroostook County, we use an Aroostook County processor and we get it to an Aroostook food pantry. So if a client were using a food pantry, it's right in their community.
Okay.
Which is great for the parts of Maine that hunt, but if you're in Cape Elizabeth, there's not a lot of hunting, so that chances are that food pantry won't see a lot of wild game. We tried to do ice fishing derbies. We've been involved in shark and tuna tournaments with great success, and then we found out the letter of the law says it has to be wild game, and they don't consider fish wild game. So as of last year, we were not able to get. We had shark steaks at Wayside in Cumberland County. Imagine having sushi or shark steaks or tuna fillets at a soup kitchen that you go to. It was great intent, but we found out we were actually violating our own laws by allowing it. So we have to stick with the deer, the bear, and the moose now. And since we deal with 257 inspected agencies, the food goes to those agencies. We don't. There's a lot of people that wake up on some days and want to run a food pantry, but they're not a 501c3. They're not inspected. They're not geared to do the work. They have good intentions, but they're just not equipped to do it. So we stick with the TFAP agencies and we get the Hunters for the Hungry product into those agencies.
Does anyone else have another question? Or Jason, do you have a question that you would like to ask the group?
Oh boy.
Well, and Jason, not to cut you off, I just want to let you know that Linda, that you were just speaking to, is from Sweden Food Pantry.
Oh, yes.
She's a CAP recipient. Karen Eastman, Servant's Heart. Well, she's right above your head, what I'm looking at. She's Servant's Heart TFAP. Anna Kamiri, she's Andover TFAP. So they're the 3 TFAP recipients on this call.
Very nice. So in what Amy and I didn't mention that a long time ago, I worked at Good Shepherd Food Bank. So the pantries you just mentioned, when I worked at Good Shepherd, I actually brought you on board with the Good Shepherd back then.
Well,
So
I thank you.
I've been to all, yeah. So I've been to all your sites, and Andover was a special one for me because there was some crazy things going on in that area. So I was so happy when Andover came on board, and that must have been 15 years ago, maybe 12, 15 years ago. But yeah,
I've just taken Andover over. So
You-
I'm the new one in Andover.
I couldn't tell you who the last people were. It's been so long.
It was Linda and Linda,
Yes.
the 2 Lindas, but.
Yep.
And with the pandemic, we've had to change things a little, but it's a food pantry that's grown immensely since
Very
the
good.
pandemic.
That's an area that always needs a pantry. It's it's up there. It's in the middle of the
Nowhere.
wilderness. Well, nowhere is good too.
But most people up here, if they do get any game, they keep it for themselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I don't expect a lot of people to call and say, oh, we've shot a moose and you can have the meat now.
Well, the best part about Hunters for the Hungry is the out-of-staters that want the trophy antlers. So once they harvest a moose, they don't know what to do with 900 pounds of meat, and they're on I-95 calling me. So I'm always I always take those phone calls. I hate to take advantage of the out-of-staters, but that's exactly what I'll do if I can get that 900 pounds of moose meat.
How do they find out about you, the out-of-state hunters?
They Google it or they talk to a warden.
We talk to a game warden.
Yeah, we work with a lot of the game wardens and biologists, and sometimes they deliver for us. Sometimes, they even state troopers. We've had state troopers with trunk loads of processed meat, giving it to a family in the Allagash. The Ashland Food Pantry is right next to a warden station, so they get a lot of the harvested meat from that area. And but we work with a lot of different state agencies and pantries.
Awesome. Cool. Any other questions for Jason? I'm gonna kind of
I just wanted to say something. I just wanted to say thank you to Jason. I do the Senior Commodities Food Program. For 300 people, and everyone at Wayside's great. I work a lot with Rachel Friedman, and she's awesome. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're helping a lot of people in the Rumford area. So
Thank you.
A lot of people everywhere. We really appreciate it. We actually appreciate everyone who's on this call, who cares about feeding Mainers. I think it's really important.
Jason,
A lot of you had said those Mainers were keeping the moose to themselves. I think Mainers are awesome at sharing with their neighbors and their friends. So I don't think 900 pounds is staying in one house. I think they're
Oh, no,
sharing.
I think everyone's sharing, but it doesn't go through the process.
Right. It's not official. It's not.
Yeah,
official.
with Jason, it doesn't go through the
No,
process because
So
we
we
have-
have
always have freezers full.
always
The
have.
one time that we got the meat, I didn't know if the people would like it or not. And so I could have got 40 pounds. And I said, oh, that sounds like a lot. I'll take 20 because we were smaller before the pandemic. I could have gotten rid of 60, 80. Those guys, the old, I call them my old geezers, the old guys that always used to get out and hunt, they were thrilled because they can't do that anymore. And I'd hand out recipes and they say, I don't need any recipe to cook a deer. It was
good.
wonderful.
That's great. So I wanted to introduce a couple people who are not usually on our call. We have Olin Harkoff. Please excuse me if I'm ruining the pronunciation of your name. I'm used to that myself. He is from Angus King's DC Agricultural Policies. He's his policy assistant for agriculture. Olin, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, hey guys. Sorry I was late, but figured I'd jump on and catch the tail end of the call. Holly invited me to join some of these meetings, so Like she said, I handle agricultural policy for the senator, as well as nutrition policy. So I cover SNAP issues in his office. So just kind of figured I'd check in and hear what is going on in your neck of the woods. And originally from Albion, Maine. So while I'm in DC, I'm still a Mainer.
Awesome. I was a DCer and now I'm a Mainer. I used to live on Tennyson Street in DC in Northwest. So you can have my own house. Also on the call is Dan Jenkins. He's a representative from Jarrett Golden's office. Dan, would you like to say hello?
I think he's gone.
Oh, okay.
Looks like he stepped away from his desk.
Maybe he stepped away. And Amy, would you like to introduce Heidi?
Actually, Heidi had to jump off like
Oh.
a second ago, and she may jump on before, like around 4 o'clock or so.
Okay.
I did have one quick question for Jason, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, could you share how you qualify for TFAP?
How you qualify for TFAP? Well, you have to be a 501c3. There's a lot of different variables.
Okay.
One of the federal mandates is we don't saturate an area with food. So I live in a small town, and we have a neighboring town that actually is the food pantry for our town. So it wouldn't make any sense to have 10 food pantries in my small town just because the need isn't that great. A town, you know, like Lewiston, Auburn area, Bangor, Portland, they could stand to have multiple food pantries. There was a time in Maine when the USDA food was not a lot of food. So the more agencies you brought on board, the smaller the piece of pie for every food pantry. So we actually, this is probably 9 years ago, we were mandated by the USDA, FNS out of Boston, to prioritize who we serve. We had boys and girls clubs, we had summer camps, we had group homes, we had 700 agencies, and we had enough food for maybe 150 agencies. So you can imagine, you know, you're serving 300 people and I give you 1 case of corn to share with those 300 people that month. It didn't make any sense. So when they passed the mandate down, we actually slimmed down to about 210. And our priority is food pantries first, kitchens or congregate meal sites second, and shelters third. And we don't, you know, we no longer have the youth camps or clubs. We want to make sure the food is going right to the front line. And I mean, the program is geared to serving households. So we want to make sure it's going to households. It's rare you'll see a school food pantry or a hospital food pantry on board in TFAP, because as soon as we give it to those agencies, another town gets less food. So we're trying to, it's a case by case basis, I guess I should say, Amy, because it really, we had a town that called us every month for 2 years. They had 6 food pantries in town, and they each pantry served 500 people. Now, if you look at the census and all the data, there was about 150 people in need, but 6 pantries were serving 500 people. So, I mean, the numbers just didn't add up, and we'd like to help everyone, but it seems like we were saturating this small town. So we had to, you know, unfortunately, we had to pick and choose who was performing and who wasn't, and stick with the ones that were doing the job, following the rules, and that were efficient in helping people in need.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so we still kind of operate that way. If someone calls us and says, I want to open a pantry, and I guess I won't name towns because it'll give it away, but there was a town, it was a church next door to our church. And there was already a pantry, and it was like a competition. The other church wanted to compete with their neighbors, so they wanted their own pantry. And I had to say, no, it didn't make any sense. It would make more sense if they joined forces and served their community together, instead of competing against their neighbor. So I had to say no. So it's a case by case scenario. We have to look at the need in the area and the current outlets that we have. So I guess there's no easy answer on that. There's a lot of variables.
It makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Jenkins, I believe, is back now. Dan from Representative Golden's office. Would you like to say hello or?
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. We are on a skeletal crew based on COVID, and a constituent came in who needed some assistance, so I was helping him out. And unfortunately, I missed much. I got about the first third, maybe, of Jason's presentation, so I'll reach out to my colleague Ben in Senator King's office to get some notes, maybe from the great conversation and the good work you do.
I'll just start over, Dan.
Oh, perfect,
No, we
perfect.
recorded.
Nobody
That's
would
all
mind,
right.
I'm sure.
It was short.
It's all recorded.
That's true. My name's Dan Jenkins. I'm the Congressman's District Office Representative for Oxford, Franklin, and Somerset counties. I do much of the similar work that Ben does for Senator King. I also do work for the Congressman on grants-related issues. So if any of your organizations or anything along those lines or towns or anything like that are applying for federal grants, feel free to reach out. Or if you have a project that you think might have a federal grant out there, we're always happy to look and see if we can find ways that we can connect our local groups and organizations and towns with those federal resources so that Maine gets its fair share, maybe even extra. I don't know. I'm not going to make that judgment. But don't hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to write letters of support. We're also happy to do grant searches. The delegation works really well together. I'm always talking with Ben and his colleagues that do the grant work, and also with Senator Collins' team and Representative Pingree's team when that's applicable. So if you reach out to one of us, you probably reached out to basically all of us, but you're always welcome to reach out, and we love to hear from you. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing whoever's left.
Hey, Dan, next month on our March meeting, we are going to be talking about grant writing, and we're going to be having Rocky Crockett, who is an excellent grant writer from the Allendale Community Garden, kind of giving tips and tricks and stuff like that. So if you want to hop on that and talk about, more specifically that grant, that reaching federal grants and where to find them, that would be a wonderful opportunity and a great addition to that call.
I'd be happy to join. That'd be great. And it's the very short answer is grants.gov, but we could go further into it too next month when we do the grant sort of specific focus.
That's great. Does anybody have any specific questions to our guests that are on here? I'm going to put this out for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to go on to our next agenda item, which kind of speaks to anybody.
Just give Representative Golden and Senator King, tell them I think they're doing a wonderful job. Can't tell what I.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We often hear from those who are grumpy, so it's nice to hear when people are happy to what we're doing.
And we appreciate all of you. We really appreciate all of you coming on and participating and being a part of this process. This whole forum was started to create a connection between people doing food insecurity, and you all are obviously doing that as well. And your work helps our work and vice versa. So it's really important for you to be here. So we appreciate you taking your time to do that. The next thing on the agenda, I'm going to turn this over to Karen Torino. She emailed me and had this thought because she actually is a meal provider. Karen, are you on? You want to unmute yourself?
Okay, on my screen, I'm right next to you.
There you are.
Okay, now I work for the cable, and we have been doing weekly free breakfasts in Norway at the Norway Grange for, I think it's at least 4 years, if not more, until the pandemic. And we had to close up for a while, but we've reopened, not in-person breakfasts, but we're doing drive-by breakfasts. I got a request from somebody to ask me about how we were doing in terms of food resources. and we seem to be doing okay. But I did mention the fact that that at least I had the idea that it might be something to think about, to have some kind of a cooperative where some of us who are providing food, we get donations of things like, you know, eggs and meat and canned things and whatever. But since we're providing food, we're having to supply food staples, salt, sugar, you know, flour, basic kinds of things, as well as staple items, things that we don't always get donated. But if we're having pancakes for breakfast, we need syrup. And we need syrup cups. So there's some food involved, but there's also just basic serving supplies, coffee cups, that sort of thing. Sometimes we try and stay away from plastic as much as possible, but takeout trays, and we use the ones that are biodegradable, and they're a little more expensive. But anyway, I thought I was thinking about the possibility that it might be a savings for all of us if we could somehow cooperate in getting these items. I don't know if there's any interest out there in that sort of thing, but Holly and I thought that I'd just throw it out there and see how people felt. So.
And, you know, Karen, that was one of my main motivations for creating this forum, was to find a way for us all to share resources and best practices.
Yeah.
And when someone has a surplus of lentils, maybe the table wants to make a lentil soup. And Jason, I'm laughing when you talked about that, because I'm a SNAP educator, and the pantries were asking me for recipes for, what do I do with all these yellow split peas? People won't even think they're split peas because they're yellow, you know, so I get it. So finding a way to, when there is a surplus of a commodity or a need, between the meal sites and between the pantries, that really was the purpose of this. And I'm hoping, you know, I don't have the capacity to create a co-op, and Karen talked about how she didn't have the capacity to do that. And I don't know if anybody else out there does, but at least we have a way of communicating with each other. I know when Amanda from Daddy-O's had surplus dinners after Thanksgiving, we were able to get those distributed and in the hands of people who really wanted them and could come and get them. Nobody seemed to have taken all of that. What was that bizarre item we had last month that we had? Linda, what was it? You have to unmute.
It was like the pork intestines.
Yeah, pork. Oh, yeah, chitlins or something like that. If we had been in Louisiana, we probably could have gotten rid of them, but nobody in Maine wanted chitlin. We couldn't sell them as clam strips. It wasn't going to happen. So,
unfortunately, and sadly, we dumped it because we didn't have the freezer space, and nobody. We reached out, and no one wanted it. So
and I don't even know if that would be something that a farmer would want to feed their animals with, you know.
Oh, you know what? I never
been
even
an option. Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. That might have worked. Because
speaking of Amanda, I think it was about a month and a half ago, was the first time that we served pancakes for breakfast, and we were looking for small cups to put syrup in. And somebody, one of our people, approached Daddy-O's, and Amanda, they gave them to us, which was really, we were very grateful for. But again, I'm thinking volume, you know, if we can come up with volume for items and, you know, get better deals on this sort of thing,
Right.
It could benefit. So
it may pay for you to speak to like the Foothills Food Works and Amanda and Liz Bleckier, who are all people who are serving food on a regular meals ready-made meals on a regular basis. Everybody's serving food. So this is meals on a ready-made basis, and, you know, join forces to order through a supplier. And I would imagine Fair Share or Amanda probably have access, you know, to.
Suppliers, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would say if anybody ever needed any sort of food or supplies or whatever, we can certainly get them, you know, at our cost for you. If that helps at all. I mean, we place orders weekly, so it's always an option out there for anybody.
That's awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
Amanda. Karen, you
It
have Amanda's information from
I
Daddy?
do. I do.
Great. Anybody else have anything they would like to say on the subject or share or thoughts? I do know from my experience, when I was doing a lot of food samplings and tastings at some pantries, that Hannaford was awesome for giving me little deli cups and things like that. When I've done my cooking classes, I've gotten little individual with plastic lids, little cups, perfect for syrup at Walmart. And you could ask them for a donation of them or see what they could do. So some of the restaurant supply places can be pretty expensive on their shipping costs and stuff. So I know the restaurant warehouse is really horrible about that.
Hannaford used to donate coffee cups as well. Like
Brenda,
paper.
can you, I can't hear you clearly. Can you say it again?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Karen, Hannaford in the past have given us coffee cups, paper coffee cups for events that we did at the high school years ago. So they might still, if you go to the service desk, they might be able to help you with that. And you know all those guys anyway.
We use them, but they limit how much they'll give to nonprofits, and you know, we go through at least 100 a week.
Right. I would suggest talking to Amanda and see if you can get a bulk order, and also talk with Chris Borden with the Foothills Food Works, because they're doing, you know, a meal a week too at this point.
Right.
So I think that would be really good.
I do have an overabundance of the little 1.5 and 2 ounce souffle cups and lids. Someone can come get some for me. And if she gives me her information, a lot of times I get donations of cases of turkey sausage and bacon and stuff. And a lot of times we can't get rid of it at the food pantry because there's so much of it. We donate it to the Amish people and they distribute it, but we can donate it to her. She's only next door to us.
Right.
So
I think that John Colina may get stuff from you for us.
what's that?
I think John Colina may get things, meat and bacon and whatever
Yeah,
sausage
yeah,
from you for us.
yeah.
We appreciate that.
So yeah, so if you remind John, because I will forget, I can give him some sleeves of those cups because I have tons of them.
That'd be great, Liz. Thank you. I will.
That's great. Good for
sometimes
any
get-
kind of condiment.
We sometimes get backed up on the federal cheese that's still around because a lot of sometimes that we have a smaller size families, we have seniors, and they'll say, oh, I can't take, I just can't take it again. You know, we oftentimes ask, but lately we've been asking them not to deliver or just to take it back to Wayside or whatever. But I'd take it if there was somebody close that could utilize it and if we could arrange. Norway's not that far from Sweden. So if there is, I mean, I would just accept it. Right now, the last 2 times we've asked them not to deliver the federal cheese.
So if anyone's looking for cheese, and I know no one from Food Works is on this call, so I'm gonna make sure that they listen in on the recording and get this information to know these resources are out there.
My clients love the food, love the cheese. So if you have any extra cheese, I'd be willing to travel down from Andover to
Okay.
get some cheese. Yeah.
We never get cheese. I'm not sure why.
We don't get cheese. with the
It comes
TFAB.
in with the senior boxes. Do you get the senior
Yes.
boxes?
We get the senior
Oh.
box,
Yeah.
but we get less than 20 of those, and I have sometimes 50 clients a week.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Awesome. We have
I'll
a
let
home
you-
for cheese.
I'll start accepting it and we can work that out.
Okay,
Where are you
great.
again, Anna? Where are,
Pardon me? I couldn't hear you.
what town you said you're from?
Andover.
Andover.
Yep.
I don't think of Andover as right next door, but I guess it
Oh,
could.
no, it's not, but I'll travel for the cheese.
I'd
Yeah.
meet you somewhere.
I'm
You
gonna
kidding me?
travel
Linda's got a
everywhere.
new van. She's got a brand new van.
Oh,
But I wouldn't take it to Andover for cheese.
far away. No way.
I'd get lost trying to figure out how to get there.
Okay, we're having a little food auction here. Anybody else have anything they have too much of or they need? This is good. We got souffle cups and cheese going to the right places. This is good. Anything else? Okay. That sounds good. I don't want to keep everybody too long. So I hinted when Dan Jenkins was talking about grants. Several people have asked about, you know, how to write a grant and things like that. And I've asked Rocky Crockett. He is the executive director of the Allendale Community Garden, and he's done a tremendous job writing grants for the garden and has had a lot of experience. And he has said that he would be happy to talk to the group and kind of give some tips and tricks next month. He wanted to know if anybody had any specific questions that they would like answered so that he knows ahead of time if he needs to do any research or anything. If you can't think of anything now, you can just email me and I'll make sure I get that to Rocky before the next meeting, which will be on March. Can you believe we're up to March? Let's hope this coming March will be better than last March. So March 10th. And I'm happy to report that March calendar is pretty much the same as February because March 1st is a Monday. But I need any updates. Liz, what do you want to say?
We're starting our senior delivery meals and our meals to go on Thursday, back up in March. We've got
Oh,
the
great.
go ahead to do that.
So in March, okay, great,
Yeah.
awesome. And I think Amanda, you might be having a meal in March, so let me know the date. And if anybody has any changes, try to get that to me by the 25th of this month so we can get those calendars out. Thank you all for sharing them and spreading them. I know they're going out on town notices. The hospitals are putting them out. You guys are putting them in pantry boxes. The word is out. So that's been great. Anybody have any last minute things they want to say or share? Okay, thank you for all you do. Please be safe, be careful, wear your mask, and keep up the great work. Appreciate it.
Sorry, I'm great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna
Bye.
stop recording. Now you can say anything you want.